Okay, so as I said with chapter, turn this here so I can hit it a little easier. So as I said with like chapter 15, okay, there was a lot more attention to detail with this one, in the sense of what basically what the whole classification system is. Okay, it's a set of rules that Linnaean put in place a few hundred years ago. At least I'm just obviously ad-libbing there in that part. But it was necessary to have a universal type of setting that needed to be done, because the language barrier, like I said at the beginning of the unit, different names in different regions or whatever it is, whenever you're trying to do same research or compare and contrast type data still. So, okay, so basically, I'm going to turn off the other one so you can see a little better with the video. Okay. So basically, the fundamental unit of classification is species, okay? The bottom one, all right? So I set up this PowerPoint to really where you don't need to take any notes over it. I uploaded an outline if you want it. I'm not collecting it this time, all right, as a homework grade, because I just thought that would be easy points, and I'd say 1 out of 3 didn't turn it in by a whole week. All you do is copy them down. And I had people actually submit the outline without anything written in it, so I was kind of bedazzled with that. So anyway, but this is for your benefit. Okay, how you doing? All right, like I said, I set up this PowerPoint to where it's like a giant note cards. So I mean, it's set up in that capacity for you already, so you can do with it how as you need them. Okay. All right, so basically the definition of the fundamental unit of what Linnaean used with taxonomy or systematics, which is classification. It's all the same thing. Just every time they give a little more attention to it, they got to feel like they got to rename things a lot. That's the only thing I have kind of an issue with a lot of times in today's modern science is we sometimes reinvent the wheel after we clean something up, and we have to change the name, and it's not necessary, but they just do it, so you just deal with it. So it's all still the same: classification, taxonomy, systematics. Okay, all right. All right. So basically, a definition of a group of similar organisms defined by a common gene pool. Gene pool meaning ability to survive and reproduce together, and the ability to interbreed, like it says there in the natural environment. Members of a species are reproductively isolated from other organisms. What it means by reproductive isolated, we're not thinking of they're in a cage. It could be the mountain range. It can be the temperature, it can be the island, it can be the forest, it can be whatever they call home that has everything they need for fitness, okay? So when it talks about reproductive isolation, in a lot of cases, when you throw in a lot of time and you have, mountain ranges and rivers changing and climates and plate tectonics and stuff like that, you give individual organisms time to migrate, or what they call nomadic activity. They branch out, no different than people leave the city to build a home in the country or out, whatever it might be. Okay, we expand out, all right? But then in this particular case, as you throw in a bunch of time, eventually land masses change, and so on. It isolates certain pockets, all right? You throw in a bunch of time, you have a smaller gene pool of a certain organism, and before you know it, there's certain features that are prevalent in those regions that weren't in the old general population. You get a change, you get a difference, you get a variety, okay? Common sense, all right? Systematics is just the scientific study of diversity, meaning different types of organisms and their evolutionary relationships. How are they linked? Remember, the term evolutionary, or evolution in a sense referred to in science, is just change over time. That's what it means. That's what it's referring to, okay? So the taxonomy then, like I said, the straight definition for it, the science of naming, describing, classifying organisms. No different than you organize in your closet at home, okay? Very, very simple, very, very straightforward, all right? I got all this stuff I need to put it. I put color tabs on my folders so I keep my subject apart. I put my shoes here, whatever it is. So they have to do the same thing. They have to keep all their ducks in a row or keep things organized in the field of science. So classifying is then at some point is ordering these organisms into groups based on similarities, meaning things they have features or how they look, similar, or even physiological stuff, relationships, okay? There are a lot of organisms that are lumped into a certain category just simply because of a habit that they have. I.e. example, one of the largest orders of the mammalian class is rodentia. The term rodent, throwing an IE makes it Latin, means gnawing animal. You're going to learn that real soon when we do our classification project. But that is an actual grouping of organisms. Animals that their front teeth grow so fast they have to chew on stuff. Your squirrels, your gerbils, your mice, your rats, your okay, that's what it means, a rodent. Okay? There's a group of animals called archodactyl, even-toed herd animals like cattle. Right? You know, they have the even toes. Right? So those are just how simple a lot of the grouping is and how really easy it is. You could do it, and you will learn to do it, when you say, okay, I'll put all this stuff in front of you, look at it and tell me, how can I divide things? Okay? You don't have to do it all at once, but just make something simple. Okay, let's say I got 5 pairs of shoes in front of me. Okay? And you know, you look at it, well, what's one way of dividing at least one shoe separately? Well, I noticed that 2 of them have laces, and the other 3 are just slip-ons. Okay, slip-on shoes, not slip-on shoes. Pretty simple, right? Okay, that's just like saying, you know, deer, mule deer, you know, something like that. All right, a different species. So then you say, okay, I'm going to come back to the slip-on. Well, now let's look at, oh, this will be easy. I got 2 pairs of shoes. They both have laces. Well, I can just describe each of them with extensive detail because they're clearly different. Boom. I have 2 different species of shoe. I have 2 different shoes, right? I got Adidas. Those are 2 different shoes. Lace up. Okay, they're done. Then I can go over to those slip-ons and say, okay, looking at these 3 slip-ons, ignoring that, how can I separate that? And so it's observation. It really is a really easy field of study. Okay. Better though now because now we know DNA. Because we did actually, over the years, back when this first started, misclassify a lot of stuff. Because it looked like something that it really wasn't. But that's okay. We made mistakes. We were going on the best at it. So this guy right here, dapper looking guy, they're looking at him there. Look at those curls, that smile. No, I'm just kidding. All right, Carlos Linnaeus. Okay? This is the guy that said, you know what, I'm going to come up with a system that we're all going to follow. Okay? And he developed it, and it's the root basis to this day. And very rarely in science or in anything is something stick around that long that's actually the hub of still how we do things. Okay? That's how good it was. So that system, which you're going to become very familiar with, is called binomial system of nomenclature. It looks like a big fancy word that if you could spell that in Scrabble, you'd win. Okay? Binomial means 2. It's a 2, this means naming, okay, of identification. A 2-word naming system for identification. Nomenclature refers to something of that, okay? So I'm like, oh yeah, if I speak Latin, Greek, it would make pretty good sense. So these little bullets are essential, i.e. hint, hint, and like I would tell everybody that I usually make when I go talk about the review, I can make several multiple choice questions off this when we ever get to the exam way down the road. But here are the rules he came up with, just like anything. All right, first things first, we're going to have a 2-word system of naming. All right? We're going to have it with the genus and the species. You guys know that as the scientific name. Okay, who's seen Jaws? Anybody? The old classic Jaws? A couple of you? Okay, cool. All right. Think to the part where the guys are all goofy when the sad scene, where the little boy gets attacked and now everybody's out in their boats and they're chumming for the shark and they think they're going to get the shark. And those guys, and they hoist that, and I believe it's a tiger shark. It's got an arrow sticking in it, and they're all taking their pictures in front of it. And the little scientist guy with the curly hair, not Brody, not Quinn, the shark hunter, the other guy, I forget his name. But anyway, he comes up on the thing, and I believe the term he says there, whenever he goes, it's a Carcharias, and this big goofy guy goes, it's a what? To the guy. He told it was just a scientific name. We call it, bull shark or tiger shark or great white shark or whatever it is. Okay, that might have, like I said, that common name is why we came up with this, because we need something to link us all together so we know we're talking about the same thing. So this is why this stuff was put into place. We know it as a scientific name. When you type in something in the internet, and it gives you that common name. Then it shows you in the little italicized, it's tilted, has a little different little calligraphy. That's a tongue twister with a mask on too. Calligraphy type looking thing, parentheses, and it has two long words. The first one's capitalized, second one's not. It's the scientific classification name of that common name animal you're looking up. All right, which right here, the genus is usually a noun, and it's capitalized. That's the first word. Like our species name, Homo sapien. Homeo is the genus, meaning same, H-O-M-O. Sapiens, all right, is the species name of us. Okay, so that would be, from a technical name if you're going scientific on us here on the classification. Okay, all right, and a lot of times I don't know how many times you see TV shows where they're doing a video recording of an autopsy or some investigation, and they'll use the scientific name a lot of times, and you just kind of let it go in one and out the other. But they're clarifying that even in the movies. You try to make things as accurately as possible when they're doing things like that is what would happen when you're identifying things. All right? The species is usually a descriptive term and usually not capitalized. And there's that italicized, or I call it the calligraphy, a little different type, scribble or whatnot, name when written. Right? So we'll show samples of that or whatever. But these are the similar two-word naming system. The first word's always a genus, second one's always a species. Usually it's a noun, and the first word, genus, is capitalized, and species is the second one, not capitalized. That's also categories 6 and 7 in the Linnaean system. Makes sense? Okay? All right, so this is how he set it up. All right, then he thought about it, he goes, we got to come up with a language universally used. Okay? Wait a minute, we can't do that, he said, because that'll be unfair, this and that. So they started thinking. They said, okay, Latin, Greek. Okay, Latin more specifically, but they call Latin the dead language. Why do they call it the dead language? Anybody want to take a stab at that? You don't get in trouble if you speak it. Because unless you go to the Vatican or some type of religious order or something like that where you might have to speak, or a private school and have to take Latin, people don't speak that as their native tongue. That's what it means by the dead language. So he chose Latin with Greek origin as the nature of the base of that. Okay? Common names may differ in different regions. That's what I talked about. Remember I talked about the fictitious one, or maybe not for some of you. But like Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, they're all talking about abominable snowman. They're talking about some, two-legged, 8-foot-tall hominid, possibly running around out there in the outskirts of all over the world. Okay, or something you're familiar with: mountain lion, puma, cougar. Okay, that's the same name of a same type of large cat family. Okay, so that's why, depending on the region they live in, there was differing names. People thought they were talking about different species, so that was why also the main important. Common names may be misleading. Scientific names allow for precision. That's why we do it. Okay, so that Linnaean system, and using Latin, understanding that Latin Greek, origin, it was the basis of it, and it works, and it used it. So sometimes, then though, we've come up with subspecies. Names can be assigned, all right? So, may also be called a strain or a variety of occasionally in a race. So basically what they're saying is, you get a population and it's normal and of nature for things to change over time. That's what we want. It happens, okay? Subtly. Though in a bunch of time, things have to improve, because if not, that's when things start to struggle with fitness, survival, and reproduction. Okay, so sometimes even in a large population, okay, you get groups within groups. So they call them subs, like a suborder or something, or in this case, a subspecies. There's one subtle thing that's a little different, okay, but they're still lumped into that same population with that group. So that's where the term subspecies came from. Okay, so usually it's identified as subgroup or population within that species. Okay. A good example was, one time I had to do a field study, all on paper. I didn't have to go out and track up and down from northern Texas, Oklahoma to southern Missouri. But I had to do my research with in college, and about a certain field mouse. Okay, and when I had pictures of them, they all looked exactly alike. They all had the same length of tail, coloration, the browns and earth tones, ears. But there was something that was different between the northern and the one found in Joplin, southern Missouri type stuff. And there's some, and I was supposed to figure out where it was. Simple story was, as they migrated north, okay, the vegetation and climate change, obviously different as you move from northern Texas into the southern parts of Missouri through Oklahoma. So there was a different enzyme that these mice in Missouri had in their digestive tract that could break down certain cellulose products or certain types of foods that the ones in Texas didn't have. And then the new subspecies were kind of had a little bit, were the ones that as they transitioned, because the food sources were kind of about the same and somewhere about mid-October. So I found a new subspecies. I had 2 different species of field mice that were separated by how they physiologically went, one in northern Texas, one in Missouri. But I found a new subspecies. It was a combination of the 2 that lived somewhere in that transition between going from northern Texas to Oklahoma into Missouri, that had both had and lacked that enzyme because there were both food sources and they lived in that area. So I found a new subspecies between, which was a combination of 2, kind of like you know, the liger, the tiger and the lion species. You ever seen that or seen a video of that about the liger? You know, they're close enough genetically that they can breed, and we had a cross, right? A little cute little mule, a little donkey, a burro, and a horse. We get a mule, Missouri mules, okay? I mean, that's the example of a subspecies between 2 different ones, okay? We could go on, there's lots of about them, okay? Okay, all right, so, I gotta get used to this, So a taxon or a taxa is the same thing, all right? It's just a general term for the level of organization, okay? A formal grouping of organization level. Example, a species is a level of taxon. Genus is a level of taxon, a level of the thing. So kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, those are all examples of different levels of organizations or called taxons, okay? Like saying a state, Missouri is an example of a state. A species is an example of a taxon, if that helps kind of that. So it's a general term associated with the level of organization, okay? All right. So here's the ones we're going to focus with, and this is the basic roots of the Linnaean system, the 7 levels. Kingdom, 2 species. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. You will get haunted by that because you'll get so used to saying that all the time with this PowerPoint and with this unit by the time we're done and with our semester project, all right? Each taxonomy level is more general. So we start out real broad here. We're all in the animal kingdom clear up here. Pretty broad, okay? I heard something pretty interesting there in the kingdom Animalia, you know, about that as far as clear up here, okay? All right, then you got in here in the phylums, you know, there's something that separates them from that. And then you got your class here, down here we got mammalian, we got your plants, we got your, you know, all different classes in that. It's different classes, okay? Kingdom, phylum, class, amphibians, reptiles, insecta, arachnophobia, okay? All right, and going on down from there. Okay, so as we have identified more species, and we're not going to go extensively, just understand how the prefixes super and sub work. I already kind of talked about what sub refers to, but super is sometimes they would put that too in front of the base category, like species or order or something. And just all you need to know that if there was a superfamily classification, superfamily goes in front of family and then sub that. So it would go superfamily, family, subfamily. Super goes in front of the base. All right, that's all you need to know. Goes above a family, okay, but below an order. All right, so meaning in the sequentials, and subs go below. All right, we don't really get into that. You will see that. And now with modern ways of classifying, we have found out where we take groups and make groups within groups. You know it, okay? Who's heard of the 3 domains? Okay, a couple of you raise your hand, all right? When I sat in the classroom like with you guys, we didn't have that yet. We didn't even have that. We didn't. We went on the 5 kingdom system. Kingdom Monera, Kingdom plantae, kingdom fungi, kingdom monera, kingdom, protista, I always forget the catch-alls, protista, fungi, animalia, and plantae, the 5 main kingdoms. But what we found out is technology got really, really good. Those little bacterias, we noticed we could go, you know what, that large group, a group called Monera, some of you might have heard of it, some of you may not. I'm going to give you some group with some vocab that you will see that term, and I like to introduce it to you because it still does show up. So what is Monera? Well, it used to be all the bacteria. But what they found out was they go, you know what, now that we can really see into this, wow, there's enough differences in this kingdom bacteria, Monera. We need to divide them up. So what they did is then they took that and they created a category above, the domains, the archaean, the ancient bacteria, and the new bacteria. So they took that kingdom of bacteria and divided it into two, and they said, well, what about all the other kingdoms? Well, they all still have everything in common, so we'll just call them the domain eukaryo, which means, multicellular. So they'll stay the same. So they added that level above, and that old kingdom of Monera just kind of slowly quit being used. But if you talk to that, or sometimes you come across it in textbooks, right? That's what it was. It was just all the bacteria, the kingdom Monera, that was then divided into a larger grouping because technology got a lot better, like microscopes and stuff, that we could actually see that there was enough differences to make 2 different groups. Okay? All right? So here, for example, is our official classification by Linnaeus as humans. Okay? Kingdom, don't do that to me. Stop. I bumped it. Stay there. Okay. We're from the kingdom Animalia, and they put that's animal. Animalia makes it in Latin. Put the IA on the end of it, just changing. Phylum Chordata. Does anybody know what the term chordata means? I know you've heard it somewhere in science before. It translates in English to central notochord, or we have a hollow tube where our spinal cord goes through. Anything that has some type of a vertebral type spinal cord canal that houses our nervous system. So then, in this one, I actually, would you stop with the projector light, please? Do that today. You're just adding into my lovely Monday, aren't you? So on this one, I even showed in here, actually 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, okay. Phylum, subphylum. Vertebrata means we have vertebral column. Okay, so I added that one in, right, showing you how a sub would work. Okay, we all know, hopefully we know we're all mammals, class Mammalia, and there's certain categories that goes with that. We come from the order primates. Okay, so and all these have unique definitions or descriptive terms that go with them with those. Family, the Hominidia. Okay, Hominidia. Actually, this little ending means kind of like family group. So when you see a lot of times, you'll see a pattern when you see things that have the AE ending. That means family in Latin. Genus, Homeo. Species, Sapiens. Okay, so that is our total official long. Okay, then we have to put that. Our complete classification using the Linnaean system for humans. All right. Okay, so I'm going to stop there for today with that, where we get specifically into characteristics that go with the domains and the things that go with it as well. Okay. Okay. Turn this on. All right. So this was getting started. I've unlocked this blue PowerPoint. This is the one we really focus a lot on here because the chapter 15 was just kind of vaguely covered geological timescale, a little bit to radioactive dating, which I cleared that down, so we've been working on just for this last week. And we're not done with it because we still have several things to do, but I on my schedule, I wanted to get this started as to what we were getting ready to do for work into past 15.1, 15.2 when we're done with isotopes, okay, or understanding those parameters, okay? So I unlocked also the outline, but I'm not taking the outline with that, like I said. So this is just introduction for this and where we go with that. All right. So Now, I'm sure, or maybe or not, you have some questions.